I'm Colby Spencer, and this is Vantropolis. This is Vantropolis, a podcast about the happenings, the goings-on, and the general day-to-day life and antics of the underslept masses working in Vancouver's film industry. I'm no expert. I'm just nosy. And if you are too, let's do this. If you're a production assistant who's spent any time this winter standing in an empty gravel parking lot or on a Vancouver sidewalk in the pouring rain, cold and alone, wondering what it's all for, this is the episode for you. Gabriel Correa started exactly where you are. And since then, he's literally climbed the ranks all the way to the top, where you can currently find him directing episodes for the CW hit television series Riverdale. I love Gabe's journey. It's a real coming-of-age story that reads as good as any script. From leaving his home in Sāo Paulo, Brazil as a young man to his arrival on the West Coast, Gabe attended Vancouver Film School and bussed tables before finally breaking into film, where he hustled hard as a PA and then landed at Supernatural, another CW television show that would see him build out much of his film career. This episode is a very informative breakdown of the director's world, starting from the trainee assistant director position, or TAD, right up to the first AD and then director. Gabe shares a nice hybrid of life skills mixed with a theoretical understanding and love of film. And this level of career success truly couldn't happen to a more kind and deserving human being. This is a good one. Enjoy. Gabe, hello, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. I joked earlier with Tony that it's American Thanksgiving, and so the only way to get anybody of your caliber in here is to make sure there's a American holiday so the productions are all halted.
Yeah, it's true. Today it's been a very busy day. This is the dentist, lawyer, bank.
That's what happens in film, right? You have your life goes on pause until you get some days off.
Very true.
And then it's not relaxing. It's like doing errands.
I'm relaxed by it though, because if I get stuff done, it's not on my mind. Believe
That's
it or
true.
not, at the end of the day, I'll be relaxed. At the end of the day, this is relaxing.
This is pretty relaxing. It's pretty calming in here. Well, thanks for being here. I'm really excited to get into everything, kind of from your journey through the ranks. You really climbed the ranks.
Yep.
From, right at the bottom, and, unfair to PAs, but it is the bottom PAs. Come on.
It is the bottom.
So welcome. So I would love to talk about kind of how you grew up. I mean, You're from Brazil, which is like such a unique story that I want to hear.
Yep. I grew up and I was born and grew up in São Paulo, Brazil, which is the largest city in Brazil. About 20 million people there. So very vibrant, very busy, not particularly pretty. It's very vertical, very gray concrete. It's a true concrete jungle. People describe as if New York threw up in LA. So it's which is not a pretty sight. So it's vertical.
Poor São Paulo.
Yeah, it's vertical like New York, and it goes on forever with the freeways like Los Angeles. So not pretty, but very vibrant.
Do you have siblings?
I do have one half brother.
Okay.
Same father, different mothers.
And your parents were artists, you said. So how did that kind of help you? That's a nice change. Most people's parents don't want them to go into that stuff. So I'm curious how yours were.
My father was a photographer, and my mom is an architect. And I think they did a favor to me because before them, my family was all like engineer, accountant, engineer.
They broke the mold.
They did. And that's their generation. They really were the generation that broke the mold. So when I raise my hand and say, listen, I think I want to do film in Brazil. I mean, I guess anywhere you tell your parents that you want to go into film, they may be a little reluctant.
I feel like it's the same reaction worldwide.
Probably.
Kind of like medicine is the same reaction the other way.
Probably.
Right? Any country you say, I want to be a doctor, no one's going to try to dissuade you.
God, no. But at least here, I feel that your parents can put can grasp that there is an industry that, oh, sure, you can make a living, whether I agree with it or not, or I think it's a noble career or not. But yeah, you're not going to starve. And Brazil is a real concern. Right. And what are you going to do for a living? I mean, I'm going to work in film. Yeah, but what's going to be your work?
Right.
Because there is very little work. But they were very supportive nonetheless. They never questioned That's what you want to do. Just make sure you do it well, go, full force into it. And I did 2 years of university in Brazil before I moved here.
In film?
In film.
Yeah.
In film.
And what was that like? Was it life skills?
It was very different in here because in Brazil, it's very academic. It's very, it's a lot of theories, a lot of smoking cigarettes and talking about French New Wave and,
And my thoughts on that, just to interrupt you, is like, is that good? Looking back now.
I think it's amazing.
Because I don't know if we get a lot of that.
You have none of it here.
And that's why a lot of this European or even South American influence is kind of adding a little bit of that versus just explosions and superstars and that kind of thing, right?
I like to think so. I mean, I can't speak for, say, the longer programs like UBC or even Capilano. I don't know what they're like. I don't want to be unfair to those programs. But I went to VFS and definitely there's very little talk of that. It's very much hands-on, which, listen, I appreciate.
Yeah, skills.
Work skills, which is fine, and it has its value, and it's all good. But reflecting now, where I am looking back, man, I feel lucky that I was for 2 years.
It's a lovely additional set of insight to film and cinema, right?
Yeah, for 2 years you just watch movies and you talk a lot about them and you write papers about them and what makes this unique and that, and you just go and you watch a lot of movies.
Well, not everybody's in film for that, right? Like you and I know that it's bustling here, but not everybody starts with a love of film to go into the industry in Vancouver. And I think if you have that, you either naturally seek it out or you subset with another education that's more theoretical, right?
I think it's very true. I think in my background, people that did go to film school, they loved movies. That's the draw. I like movies. I like this movie. I want to make this thing. Here, I think there's a blend of people that, listen, this is a vibrant, cool career. I can do other things and I can go and travel and I can make my own schedule to a degree. I work hard, but then I take months off.
Right.
And it's good money because you put in a lot of hours. But I felt that I feel like the difference is in Brazil, you go to film school because you watched and fell in love with Citizen Kane. Here is when you go to film school is maybe when you watch Citizen Kane for the first time.
Yeah, good point. Very good analogy.
So that's how I sort of felt. And I felt very different than most of the students in film school because of that. Not better or worse, just different.
Yeah.
And now looking back, I'm glad that I had both experiences.
So you did the 2 years in Brazil. How did you feel coming out of that? Did you feel ready to work? Were you still where did you go from there?
No, I didn't feel ready to work at all. Not in any.
You were ready to talk at parties with cigarettes.
ready to work. Like if you give me a job, the equivalency of a PA job in Brazil, I'll be ready to work anytime. But as far as am I ready to be a filmmaker in the true sense of the word, I would say I wasn't ready for it.
And was that your goal, or did you not know? It was
always
your goal.
Always my goal to be a director, to be a filmmaker in the sense, maybe I thought maybe my father's a photographer, maybe I can be a director of photography. But at any rate, always in that capacity of being a true filmmaker.
So you knew early on.
I knew it.
So did you think about staying in Brazil? Like, what was your mindset after you finished that schooling? How did you kind of decide to get here? To Vancouver.
I wanted to stay in Brazil. I was dating my future wife at the time, and I was in my I was like 19. Yeah, 19, 18,
Just a
19.
baby, Gabe.
Total baby. So, I don't want to leave Brazil. Like, I'm in university. This is cool. And I have my girl, and we had been dating for, I think, nearly 3 years then. At that age, a significant relationship. So I didn't want to come. Some of my family was here. My parents were divorced, and my mom's family was here, and they wanted me to come to.
So they were in Vancouver.
They were.
I didn't know that part.
They were, and they're like, you should come. I'm like, but girlfriend, friends, film school.
Yeah, you're in your prime of your life at 19, right?
Yeah, cigarettes and French movies. I don't want to leave. And it's warm.
Do you know how much
here.
knowledge I can share?
Yeah,
at these parties.
And it's warm here.
It is warm. Good point.
They lured me with film. That was the catch. It's like, did you know that Vancouver is the third largest film center in North America, and they have this great school, and you should look into it. So they sent me a brochure for VFS.
Because what year was this? There was no website?
This was 1999.
Oh, it's back. Okay.
Or 2000, 1999, 2000, thereabouts.
Yeah.
Give or take my memory. I'm aging. but thereabouts.
So early on.
Early on. And
because we're almost in 2020. That's 20 years ago.
It's just so crazy. And I thought, listen, if anything, in Brazil, I don't know if it's changed now, 20 years ago, if you had gone abroad and done something like VFS and you come back, I think they would carry a lot of weight.
Right.
Oh my God, he studied film in
North America.
Oh the Hollywood system. He must be good. So I thought, hey, listen, the worst thing that could happen is I'll go there, I'll do VFS, I'll come back. I finished 2 years out of a 4-year program in Brazil. So I don't know what the equivalent term would be here, but you locked. It's what the translation would be.
Yeah.
Like, the little translation would be like, you lock your studies. You
Right.
put it on hold.
Okay, yeah, you put it on ice.
Put it on ice. So I put it on ice, and I came here, did VFS, and I said, worst case scenario, I'll come back, and I can finish the other 2 years or go straight to work if VFS is really going to elevate me to like, this guy's hot shit. He just came from North America.
Isn't it funny you have to leave and come back? I mean, it doesn't even matter what you do over here. I found with overseas work, you say you went somewhere else, you could have been like, eating cookies and coffee at front desk.
True.
People are like, wow, you worked in London.
I know. And maybe times have changed because of, social media and everybody's exposed to every country now. So I don't know if it carries the same sort of
that's a good
mystique.
point. You expect global now, right?
Yeah, but at the time I think was a bigger deal for sure.
Well, that's when I moved to London was 2000 by myself. So same kind of, we were
Big
just
deal.
passing each other in the airport.
It's a big deal, right?
It is a big deal. I was terrified.
So there was the hook. The hook was take this program and see what happens. And I did. I did the year at VFS.
Did you come alone?
I came alone at first. I did have some family here, but I came alone. And then a few months later, a friend of mine from the same film program joined me here, and he went to VFS, but he went to the animation program.
Awesome.
He's a brilliant artist.
Yeah, VFS has a lot of different ways and avenues you can explore film, right?
And for sure. And this guy's brilliant. And he went back to Brazil, and he has a wonderful career. He's a very talented classic animator. Or if I don't even know if that's the term, but an animation artist.
Yeah.
So I did. So I had a friend here, and we went to different campuses, but living together downtown. And
what'd you think of it here? I'm so curious.
I loved it.
I would love your first impression. You get off at YVR.
Well, my very first impression was terrible because my grandparents lived in Richmond, and that's where I was staying.
Right.
And this was 2001, summer of 2001, and TransLink was on strike.
Oh, how
timely.
How timely. We just diverted one last night.
Yeah, so I got here, they were on strike. And
no SkyTrain, no Canada line for years to come, right?
Nothing. And my grandparents didn't have a car. And I hated Richmond with a passion. It was just small, and the blocks were so vast.
Very suburban and spread out.
Very suburban. Like, you'd go for a walk, it takes you half an hour to walk one block.
But Gabe, that's the North American dream.
I know. I hate it. I hate it so much.
You're like, where's the concrete? I'm homesick.
Yeah, so I felt that there was nothing going on. All I wanted to do is to come downtown every day, and I couldn't because there was no means for me to get here. And I just felt isolated. And then soon enough started raining, and it was dark and rainy and cold and no friends and no social life and stuck in Richmond. So, but it didn't make me give up. I knew like film school was going to be a blast. It didn't discourage me, but the first few months
But some people would go home, right? Not everybody would stay.
True, but I think having family here
that helps. Yeah,
helps. It helped me. But once the gates were open and buses were running, I was downtown here all the time. I came to the library. Oh my God, I can rent these DVDs for free up here. Paolo Pasolini. I can watch this, or Criterion. And
isn't that amazing about libraries? Because I grew up barely using them, and I feel like such a snob. And then we're here now at the Vancouver Public Library. I do all my podcasts here. And I was so humbled of like, wow, there's all of this stuff that I thought I was too good for. And here I am using it now.
It's
brilliant. So appreciative, right?
For sure. And, I don't think you have the same resources in Brazil. And I was really impressed with it. I came here all the time and to read, to borrow stuff. Pardon me.
And how was your English?
It was okay. It's better now, obviously. But it was okay. I mean, I love talking, so that helped. I couldn't care less if and I'll still make mistakes to this day in pronunciation things and whatnot.
Yeah, but you know what? You have two languages. Just always remember that.
When people make fun of me, it's like, I want to see you try some Portuguese.
I am so appreciative of any English because that's all I know.
So the English was okay. It was okay. It didn't deter me from learning anything that other kids will pick up in school.
Well, and VFS, was it fairly global? Like your experience, it was quite a...
Yeah, we had kids from Japan, Mexico, Brazil, a lot of kids from America.
Wow.
But yeah, it was very, very, very global, I think.
So you really started getting a sense then, probably through word of mouth with your peers as well, of like what was going on here.
For sure.
Right?
And I think Vancouver is on the rise,
Yeah, absolutely.
And people say, oh, this town, like it's, this is pre-Olympics. This is pre a lot of the things,
the big boom.
The big boom in real estate and in arts and everything, right?
Yeah.
But people, they could sense that something was brewing here.
Yeah.
And I love that. And to me, the thing that made me never want to go back, and I can say confidently that unless it's retirement or something really tragic happened, I have no desire to go back to Brazil to live. I love the country to visit, but not to
Should
live.
we not air this in Brazil? Your family doesn't want to hear it?
No, listen, I love Brazil. It's a beautiful country, but I'll tell you why. It's nothing against Brazil per se, but in Brazil, at least when I was growing up, the common thing is that you live with your parents forever. And you probably only move out if you get married or who knows. But it's very, very hard to get started. Real estate's very expensive. Even if you rent a place, it's not like here where you rent a place and you have your fridge, your stove, your things set up. Like you're renting a place and there's literally nothing, not a light fixture, not a washing machine. There's no communal laundry. So for you to just be renting a place and bringing all that in, it's a major investment. It's in the tens of thousands of dollars just to rent a spot. So people depend on their parents for a long time. And once I was here, and before film school started, I worked for 6 months in a restaurant in Richmond as a busboy in an Italian restaurant. And it was a great experience. I loved it. I was making my own money and training my English and all
Doing
that.
all the things you needed to do, right?
Just
finding your wings.
Finding my wings.
Your Canadian wings.
And then my Canadian wings. And then I decided that I didn't want to live with my grandparents anymore, that I wanted to be downtown and by myself. Sharing a place with this friend of mine was doing film school. And I did the math and I said, well, if I can make X a month, at the time I think it was like $500 or something, I could live on my own. And that's all I wanted to do. And I knew that once school started, it was going to be a full-time endeavor. So I couldn't really work unless it was on the weekends. So what I did, I worked for 6 months at this restaurant and I just saved money. Once school started in January, Monday to Friday, I was going to school and living downtown. One-bedroom apartment. One of us lived in the living room, one in the bedroom.
As you do.
We had nothing. We literally had 2 mattresses, one in each room. And
what do you need? You're 20.
I loved it,
right?
Every second of it. And maybe
that's why. And to that point, that's why you do the hungry stuff when you're young.
For sure.
Because now you're like, I'm not living in a goddamn living room.
I've done that.
I'm not busing for 6 months and saving this shit. I want to go out and eat nice.
No
right?
way.
You lose your capacity for that real hungry that climb, right?
You have a taste of the bourgeois lifestyle, and
That's
I'm not
the good wine.
I'm a big wine guy, and I don't want to give that up.
No.
But at the time, everything was just yours, and it made you feel alive. And we had a few plates and some cutlery that was given to us. We ate on the floor, but it just had a real feel of like, young adulthood and just doing stuff. And I walked to school. It was a half hour, 35-minute walk because I was in the West End in the rain, but it felt good, because I couldn't afford the bus. That was part of the math, right? If I don't have to take the bus,
I got to walk.
I can afford this rent. And so I did the school, and Saturday and Sunday, I would go back and work on the same restaurant in Stevenson. So it was a long haul. I used to take it was the 99, the defunct 99 B-line.
So I just want everybody to listen to that. This is like not the story you think you're going to hear. Going to VFS, walking out, and like straight onto a set.
No,
right?
it's not.
Gabe is like busing on the weekends to another city.
Yeah,
right. Like
for sure. and busing there and working in a restaurant, which is hard. Restaurant's good.
Yes, I did it. I still have stress from it.
It prepares
PTSD.
you for a film set, because it's intense.
Good point, actually. A lot
very
going
intense.
on.
It's very intense.
Organized chaos.
And dealing with public, which you do as a PA. Now I don't deal with public, I deal with crew. But as a PA, you're also dealing with public. They have no interest in being disrupted when you're shooting. So I think it was good. There was something about it that you had that same pace and vibe and intensity.
It got you ready for what was to come.
And at the time, it's what I needed to do. And at the time, the decision I made, and it felt right for me, it wasn't even really that conscious. My heart just told me that it was important to be independent. And it felt right and it felt good. And that's what I wanted. And I had friends from film school that on the weekends, they'll be doing film projects, which I was very jealous.
Yeah.
I was really pissed because I would. And it was my own decision, so I have nobody to blame. I was like, fuck, I should be doing this. These guys are going to get there first. But you know what? Just keep your head down and work. It's what you need to do. This feels right.
Well, and there's no right one path, right? And as we will get to your career, I don't think you have any worries about any of that now. But yeah, there's no right one path. There's not one right path, right? People going to school, some are studying like maniacs, some are building a reel, some have to work or take care of siblings or whatever, right? That's the biggest lesson is you just can't look at anybody else's journey.
You can't. And we tend to compare ourselves to others all the time. I know I do. I'm
too.
my harshest critic, and you're always like, oh fuck, this person's doing this. I should have been here. And you learn with experience and age that you can't do that because you're absolutely right. There's no one way. You just gotta do what feels right.
Trust your gut.
Yeah.
So you came out of school. You're done with VFS. What did you want to do then? Like what? You're walking out with your diploma, your certificate.
I was quite lost to a degree. Not lost. I knew I wanted film. I knew the ultimate goal. That hadn't changed, but I was quite lost in the sense of like what's next? Like what's that first step? I realized very quickly, even before film school was over, that this notion, which all of us at one point have, that you're going to come out of film school and you're going to sit in a chair with your name on, doesn't
Well, you can
happen.
do that if you make it yourself.
You
right?
can't. I mean, it's not impossible, but I'm just.
But then you need money, and it's not busing money.
And
you're like, how much are lights?
Well, and not only that, at that time, don't forget that at the time we're dealing with film, which made it more expensive because right now I can make a movie on my iPhone, or you can buy a reasonably inexpensive camera.
More
and
of a barrier to entry now.
Yeah.
Or then.
Then, if you want to do even like a 5-minute short, you needed to rent a film camera.
Yeah,
you need to deal with film and developing and all those things. Those costs have gone down.
Yeah.
So it was really inaccessible. It was just different.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, what now? What now? Obviously, nobody's going to say, hey, come direct this beautiful script.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So I looked at two things. I looked into either joining the camera union and becoming a camera trainee in the hopes that one day I'll be a director of photography.
Mm-hmm. Which is 669, right? The union.
That's a 669.
For those of you listening along.
And they offer a trainee program. It's a very good program. So it's like a workshop. I don't know how many weeks, but maybe 6 weeks or so. And they teach you how to become a camera assistant.
Is it paid?
I don't think it's paid,
Just
but they
curious.
do. But after, I could be wrong. I don't think it's paid. But once you complete the training, they will place you on set.
Right, which is invaluable.
A good thing.
Yeah.
It's a very good thing. Or I thought I would join the Directors Guild of Canada, DGC, and then I'll find my way through the assistant director department. And tricky because assistant director doesn't necessarily lead to directing, but you certainly are working in the director's team.
Right.
So I chose that path. And
where'd you start in the DGC, Gabe?
so DGC at the time, so I took you had to take 2 or 3 courses to get a log book. And so when you go on set, your supervisor can sign your book in those days.
You're building your days, right?
Building your days so you can get a full membership.
Which I also don't think everybody understands, right? You don't just start working and you keep coming back every day. If they don't need you on Wednesday, you don't get that day.
It's a very good point.
Right?
Because you're absolutely right. The PA position seldom is a full-time, you coming every day. I remember back then, and things might have changed, but I don't think they changed that much. Usually you have 3 or 4 PAs, or key PAs they called. So you're hired for the run of the show. Mm-hmm. But every other PA, you're a day call. They call you when they need you, and they don't call you when. So you kind of don't know when you're working next. Sometimes you know a couple of days in advance. But it's very much be on alert, be juggling to 2 or 3 shows. Hopefully, you have a network of like 2 or 3 teams. They'll be calling you constantly, and you just hustle.
You gotta hustle
because it could dry up like that.
Well,
right?
And I think a lot of people have a misconception that they're like, I'm not working enough. I'm gonna give up. You know, they've had a few days here and there, and it's like, what do you expect is going to happen? There's thousands of PAs that want to do this.
And now it's busy. But when I this is a true story. When I started, so I took the courses to become a PA, and I thought I need to be able to get anywhere without needing any lifts or any public transportation.
Right.
So I need a car, and I need to be people need to reach me. So I a cell phone, which back then to me at least was a bigger deal than it is now. It's just financially, you know? But I got like a prepaid phone, and when I was you have to take a traffic control course, believe it or not, to become a PA, one of those.
I took it out of curiosity years ago at Cap College, and I was like, this isn't for me.
Cap College? I took one in Surrey with the real flaggers. It's like a 3-day course. It's hardcore.
If you weren't smoking, you would be after that.
Absolutely. And then, you flagging.
Age 20 years.
You flagging semi-trucks.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was there.
Serious business.
And I saw this car parked on the side of the road. It was a Nissan Micra, tiny little car, old. And I was staring at it, and I got close to the window, and I looked inside, and I'm like, man, this would be the perfect car for me because it's small. It looks like it would be cheap. That's the sort of thing I need. Mm-hmm. And then on cue, this guy opens the door to his house, and he's like, do you want to buy that?
What?
But I thought he meant, and he's like, quit looking at my car.
Oh, like get lost.
You get lost. And I'm like, well, and he's like, no, I'm serious. Like, this is my daughter's car. Do you want to buy it? And I'm like, well, I am looking for a car. And he said, $300. I'm like, what? He's like, $300. I said, I'll come by tomorrow, because I was still in the middle of the course. I had the vest on. So I went the next day, bought it for $300 cash. He had 360,000 kilometers.
Oh, that's asking for it. But on a Nissan, maybe not.
So that was my setup, right? That was my setup, and then.
But isn't it amazing how the universe just unfolds?
I thought that was meant to be.
It's like I know it's a bit West Coast, hippy dippy.
No, I like that.
But you manifest stuff, and then there's a car.
I'm a converted West Coaster.
Okay,
I'm
gotten a bit
hippie. Yeah,
I've got a bit namaste-ish.
I've gone to Salt Spring plenty of times to be converted.
Oh, you're one of us.
Drum circle and whatnot. So it was meant to be, and now I have my setup, and the DGC puts a list every Friday. They update a list with all the shows that are in town. At the time, either I didn't know I had a computer. I don't think they had the website set up yet in a way that you could see the list online. I don't think so. I could be wrong, but I don't think you could. There was a store in Gastown called Biz Books. Do you remember that?
Yes.
The great books on film and whatnot, and they actually had a printout of the list. So you could go there every Friday, get a physical printout of the productions.
See, kids, it's not like it is now. I know we sound old, but now you go online, you hit a couple buttons, you got a whole production list on your computer or your iPhone.
And the funny thing is that I'm 38. I don't think I'm that old, but
that's how quickly it changed.
It changed so fast.
But the internet was a game changer, and I know it was, quote, around, but not the way it is now.
No, it was around, but it wasn't used the way that it is now. And emails were around, but they weren't used. Like, productions weren't communicating with potential PAs on email basis or resumes.
What were they doing? Phoning you?
A fax.
Oh, fax, yeah.
So what I did is...
The beloved fax machine.
I did a little very rudimentary cover letter. Just bullet point, just said, it looked a lot like my...
I have a Nissan Micra.
It looked a lot like my first card where I gave up on the restaurants. That's how I got the job. I had this little card. My Canadian aunt did it. Auntie did it for me. It was beautiful.
So sweet.
It had my name. It had her phone number, and it said, quick learner, very enthusiastic, hard work. I had like 3 things, and
do you still have one? I feel like you need to find that.
I need to find, and I went door to door in Susan. That's how I got the job at the restaurant. So I did the.
Who would turn down that card?
I know. I had the.
There's no way. I'd be like, get in here.
Yeah. So I had the film version of that, which was a cover letter said own a car. Own a car. Quick learner, hard worker, can start tomorrow. All those things, right? And you send, and I hit literally every single production on the list every Friday, and I'll fax them. And it took me months to get the first response. which now it's so busy now. People,
I just want people to really listen to this part of it because there's going to be a plot twist, shortly.
People lose perspective sometimes. It can get slow. So it's very slow. So
most people look the other way. They look at the now and then they go back a little bit, but they don't go all the way to the beginning.
Yeah.
To see where you started. And as my husband said, a lot of people take that stuff off their IMDb. So you actually don't know where they started because they get rid of it.
It's funny.
Right?
Funny you said that. I'll just do a little sidebar very quickly.
Yeah.
Because I'm proud of my IMDb, so people can type my name and see what I've done. I think it's a very cool thing. And I did this thing where Riverdale, as the episodes have been airing in episode 4, they update the IMDb, and I kept checking because I knew that once episode 9 of season 4 was on IMDb, it would put me as the director that had directed the most amount of episodes of Riverdale.
Right, you knew the milestone.
Meaning now if you type Riverdale on your search, and it has the page of the show, not my page, the page of the show, and it would say writer, creator, cast. And when it says directors, my name comes up first because I have the most.
Wow.
So that was something that I was very, very proud of.
Absolutely.
It just reminded me. It was a physical reminder of years of hard work. And
Absolutely.
And I'm like, that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
So as I'm looking at my IMDb and you type my name, you would say Gabriel Correa, will say producer, director, miscellaneous, assistant director. You have all my credits. And I realized that the description, your title, it's based on the amount of credits you have. So if you have mostly directing creditors,
I didn't know that.
Directors will come up first.
Gotcha.
So on mine, I think maybe assistant director is still what comes up first, which is great. But I think even before producer or director, it comes up miscellaneous crew. I think that's what it says.
Yeah.
And I was like, why is that? And I clicked, and it's all my PA credits.
Oh, I couldn't find it.
And at one point, I was about to delete them.
Yeah, don't.
Because I thought, I want people to come and my name's director. And I was like, you know what?
Exactly what I just said. Yeah.
And I said, you know what? That's my history. I want people to look it up and see Gabe Correa wasn't a guy that got this thing. No, because I think it's cool. It means that for all of us here in our little community, yeah, you could go places. You could start as a PA. There's nothing wrong with it. Like you say, there's many paths, and this is mine. And I decided not to take it down because it's part of who I am.
Absolutely.
Those PA dates.
Well, and everybody did that kind of stuff. It's not like no one's.
So they're there.
Yeah.
There.
Okay. I got to go to miscellaneous crew. Okay.
But then close
so your
sidebar,
PA stuff, yes. Close sidebar.
So my PA stuff. So I'm be hitting that list every Friday. No calls. And then suddenly I get a phone call. And they say, we're a show called Desolation Sound, independent Canadian film. We're shooting in Seychelles, in the Sunshine Coast. And we need a PA. It's, I think, 2 or 3 week shoot.
Wow.
We can pay you for 5 days. And if you want to stay on, you can, but you have to volunteer. And I'm like, yep, volunteer. Yep, oh yeah.
And he said, sure.
Yeah, and I remember I lied to them that I had a place to stay there because I was so scared that if they had to put me up,
they would maybe cut you.
They would cut me. So I was like, oh yeah, no, Seychelles, no,
you got the Micra.
Not a problem. Oh yeah, I have family in Seychelles. It's the Brazilian Sunshine Coastanian.
The affiliate.
Part of my family.
Some old man's house who maybe went to Brazil once.
So I got the job. I got paid. So that pay for that 1 week, I essentially used all that money to stay in a hostel. I was in a dorm. It had like 2 or 3 bunk beds and a shared washroom. That's where I was staying, and I was driving the Micro every day to set. So essentially, it was a wash. I didn't care, though. I was just so fucking happy to be on movies. I was like, I'm on a movie set, man. This is it.
Speeding down the Sunshine Coast Highway with your Micro.
And then my very first day, so they were shooting, the main location was this beautiful house. And he had to take this dirt road off of the main highway to get there. It was a long road. So I'm going to set, report at this spot at this time, blah, blah. I'm driving to set, and then this guy meets me. His name was Alan Ross. I worked with Alan again many years later.
That always happens, right?
Always happens.
Full circle.
So many people from that show.
Don't burn your bridges, people.
So many people from that show I worked with. So I meet Alan, and he's like, okay, this is where you're going to be stationed. And literally, I couldn't even see the house. I didn't see set. I didn't see anything other than road and grass.
That's such
and
a
trees.
PA story.
And it's
You're like, what am I watching?
And it's like this is where you get. This is your station. I'm like, okay, like what am I doing? Say, well, so people are going to start showing up, and you're just going to park them on the side of the road here. Do this line, do this and that. Tell them how to get to the house. Point them this way, blah blah. And when you're done, you call me on this walkie-talkie, and then we'll give you your next assignment. I'm like, okay. So people started showing up, and I was parking them, hi, my name is Gabriel, but very shy. And then this pickup truck rolls in, starts slowing down, and then this guy, he rolls down his window. And then this giant cloud of smoke comes from his car. This very aromatic smoke.
Yeah,
from,
it's very BC.
Very BC smoke.
Very Sunshine
comes
Coast.
out. And then this guy has this beautiful smile. He's like, hey, man, what's your name? I'm Gabriel. Hey, Gabriel, nice to meet you, brother. What are you doing here? I was like, I'm the PA. He's like, yeah. I shook my hands like, hey, where do I park? Thank you so much. Hey, I'm Ian. And then I looked at him and I recognized him from film school because we did an assignment that we had to edit an episode of Canadian television. And that was Ian Tracy from Da Vinci's Inquest.
Oh my gosh.
And he's such a sweetheart. And he was the lead actor in it.
No.
And he treated me so well. And
you never forget those things.
I never forgot that. And I then worked with Ian a few times since, and every time I reminded him of that experience.
And you can't fake that. You're like that or you're not.
And then I was like, man, it's like, this guy's so cool, so down to earth and humble. And that's
you can tell a lot about an actor about how they treat the PAs.
100%.
Right?
100%.
Because even like the lowlies on set treat them like shit.
100%. And he taught me too, as I'm going to be hopefully be progressing in this industry, remind you that you should treat everybody with the same respect.
Those poor PAs, right? Don't look at them the same now.
It's tough.
You just see those little innocent doe eyes, and you're just like, just make it through, buddy. It's gonna be okay.
Hanging in there. But I remember that was my first day, and then I realized too that the locations department, which is the department that where the PAs work under, it was me. It was like I was doing everything.
President, a secretary,
everything. But it was good because the people
trial by fire.
Me. People was like, this kid, he's hustling. People were high fiving me. ADs were like giving me little assignments because and that led to.
If you're hungry and you stick around like that, you can move and shake a little bit.
And I was hungry, baby.
Yeah.
I'm constantly I'm hungry.
And that's just a mindset.
My belly's always empty. And it was a great experience. And then is amazing for years to come, those relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
ADs that I worked there have given me breaks or anyway, it always comes full circle.
It does.
And it's truly amazing.
And if you'd said, no, I want to make money every day, I don't want to take this, boom.
It's not my jam.
Right?
And PA was very different then too. It was a little slower, and this was pre-smartphone, so you got bored a lot.
Yeah.
And, but one thing I was told by Sandra Mayo, who's an AD here in town, pretty experienced AD, and she used to teach little courses at the GGC to prep you for PA work and whatnot. As a PA, your tasks are very simple. You're watching a generator, you're sweeping the floor, you're changing this garbage bag, you're doing little things like that, right? So it's not like you have a lot of opportunities to showcase, certainly not to showcase any talent, but even to showcase your personality and your attitude. You have few opportunities to make these one-on-one interactions with decision makers, with people that potentially could do something for you.
Yes.
So...
Or as Tony said, my husband, he used to switch to the lighting channel on the radio.
And listen
and just listen. He would listen for hours because he's like, nothing was going on my channel. Like, once I'm, you still at the corner, Dirk? Yeah, I'm still here. Don't let anybody through. Okay. And then he'd switch to the lighting channel.
That's brilliant.
And he'd listen to them set up a shot and talk about all
he's
the
learning the
gels.
the shorthand, right?
Yeah. And he's like, that was like free school in my ear, sitting in an alley.
And right? that's like years of film
that
school
radio,
in one day.
Right? That radio is the whole set.
That is the whole set. And you listen to the sort of voice of God, which is your first AD. Like you're listening to every command. You're listening to the level of stress. Is it a calm set? Is it a stressful set?
Yeah.
You can tell a lot being
Yes.
miles away just by the tone that the information come through a walkie-talkie. It's the
Absolutely.
pulse of the set.
It really is. That's a really good thing to share with people, that radio in your hand. You've got a
know.
lot of...
And when you're a first AD, that it burns in your hand. When I was done my last episode,
You have cinch marks.
Yeah, and when I did my last episode of ADing ever, I was tempted to burn the radio. I was like, I never want to wear a radio again. I don't miss the radio.
No.
But it is a very important, you're right. It's the heart and beat of the set. And at one point you should be carrying a radio.
Yes.
I'm happy that I don't anymore, but it was invaluable that I did carry one for so many years.
So how were you after that? How did your career kind of go? You're PA, you're moving along. It must have I don't want to say picked up, but you kind of climbed, I don't want to belabor the journey too long because we do have a lot still to get into with not a lot of time.
I climbed, PA from here and there, and then I finally got a break on a show. It was the pilot for Criminal Minds.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was called Quantico back then, but when it was made into a series, they changed the name to Criminal Minds.
And they'll often do pilots here, just as an aside, is cheaper.
Yes.
Right? If it doesn't get picked up, it was a cheaper expenditure.
For sure. So the pilot was done here. They knew that the series, should it get picked up, it was going to be taken to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
And I was a PA there. And then the TAD, which stands for Trainee Assistant Director, got sick. And so the ADs were looking for somebody to fill in for a couple of days. And the second AD of that show, Josie Kapkin, was one of the ADs of my very first show, Desolation Sound. So she knew me, not a whole lot, but it's that sort of familiar face.
Sometimes that's all it takes.
And again, it's those 101 interactions. Meaning, if somebody's coming to this door and I'm guarding this door, I'm going to open the door for them and I'm going to smile and I'm going to say hi. That's what it. If somebody's if I'm at Crew Park for 10 hours a day, I'm going to be resting, of course. But if I hear you're a little cheetah on alert for prey. If I hear the gravel sound car coming in, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say hi and I'm going to show some enthusiasm about being in a movie set. Anyway,
Absolutely.
She remembered me. She gave me a break, come in, fill for 2 days. So that was my first time being an assistant director.
Did you have any clue what that was? I mean, you would have from being around it, but...
A little bit from listening to the radio and trying to pick up on things by being proactive, but not the ins and outs. But I tried really hard, and I did well to the point that when the former trainee got better, they say, don't come back. Gabe is doing great. I felt bad.
Don't get sick.
Don't
That's
get
a
sick,
bummer.
baby.
That's a sad plot twist.
Or never take time off and replace yourself with somebody better than you. It's a big
Right?
no-no. You don't want them to be shitty either, because then they resent you. You just
Yes.
got to be good and just barely making it.
What a balance.
It is a balance.
So what's a TAD do? Let's tell people.
Okay, so a
'cause,
TAD...
I said earlier too, people know what a director is, more or
For
less.
sure.
I would argue they don't necessarily know what that is either. But what is an assistant director? What's a fourth, a third, a second, and what's the trainee, which is sort of the bottom of the rung for that?
So the assistant director department, which is run by the first assistant director, the first AD. So the first AD, he or she would be in charge of, number one, setting the schedule for the show. So they would break down the script in pre-production. They'll break down the script and they will put up a schedule for the movie based on how many shooting days were budgeted for the show, what locations, availability, and constraints they may or may not have, cast availability issues, trying to do the stuff in continuity or chronological order
Right.
per the script. So it's like a puzzle. So that's one of the main things the first AD do in prep.
Right.
It's doing the schedule, the one-line schedule, because when you look at it in these strips, in these one lines, pardon me, you're going to find the information about what the scene description is, the scene number, which cast member is in it, is it day, is it night, is it interior, exterior,
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's tricky work, and it can make or break the movie once you get to the floor to actually shooting it. So that's what the first AD is doing, and then that person's also in prep, running all the meetings, all the departmental meetings. You're really the director has a creative vision, but the first AD is really the person spearheading everything, managing so everything is being put together from every other department.
More the logistics of that world.
The logistics of that world. That you sort of gluing it everything together. And then beyond the first, then you have the other assistant directors that get delegated stuff. So the second assistant director usually will be in charge of the call sheet. And will be in charge of dealing with a lot of things cast related, booking rehearsals, doing travel memos or movement orders, or a lot of things logistically to do with cast and upcoming days. So once you get to the film set, the first AD is very much involved in that moment, in the now, in this shot and the next few shots, and getting this one day done. The second AD is already looking ahead to the next day, maybe the next few days.
Right. Just as an aside on that call sheet, everybody jokes, waiting for the call sheet at midnight. Where's my fucking call sheet? That's a lot of work, that call sheet. And it is. Let's defend the call sheet. Well, what is holding up the call sheet, Gabe?
Well, a lot of things are holding up the call sheet. I did many call sheets. First off, you need to gather a lot of information throughout the day to do that call sheet. But also, there's a time to release the call sheet, because some of the things may change depending on, say, what time you wrap that day. You have all these...
Right. You have to wait for the day before to end.
And you have all these union rules regarding turnaround and whether or not you're going to complete this scheduled day. So am I going to need to change the call sheet? Am I going to need to add a scene or do a scene order change? And how is that going to affect everybody that's in it and what time they're in it?
So you're sweating bullets waiting for the stuff you need for the call sheet, because 60 to 100 people are at home, driving home. They want their call sheet.
They want, and now everybody sort of gets them email, but back then you just sort of hand hard copy. Did everybody get a call sheet? That person's leaving run paper that truck. That's what
Seriously.
You paper the trucks. Like nowadays, I don't think anybody gets a call sheet. Like they just look at their phones.
And now they're really secure. I see your name gets like watermarked for leaks and stuff,
sign
right?
your life away to get those call sheets.
Yeah.
But you had to get them out, and as a second, you're standing on guard. Are things going to change? Do I have to phone 100 people now and tell them it's a half hour later, it's a half hour earlier? I switched the order. How's that gonna?
Yeah, so there's a lot. So
there's a lot.
Everybody just understand. Maybe you're tired and you want to know what time you're going to start tomorrow, but that person writing that call sheet, I just think of them like just sweating bullets at their laptop, right? Like,
there's a poor second AD out there.
Yes.
Trust me, they want to get their call sheets out as well.
It's a very stressful job. And I did read too that, if you're on set and the first AD doesn't look like they're, quote, doing anything, that's because they did a shitload of work prior and they're really good at what they're doing.
For sure.
Right? It's not like, what an easy job. It's like, no,
it's probably the hardest job.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much work. So if you're kind of chill on set, you probably earned it.
And it's a very good quality to be. If you can be a chill first AD, you're good.
Well, I've heard lots of jokes of many not. Stressful. Yeah, even I used to work in commercial world and advertising, and this is all I remember from the first AD. Can we move on? They didn't give a shit what you shot as long as you could just keep going. Keep going. Keep going. It's like, no, we didn't get everything. Oh, fuck. They were just always wanting to move on, and then just everybody shut the fuck up all the time.
Sure, silence.
Shut up. And can we move on?
Yeah.
And I was like, what is wrong with this person? But I get it now. I get it.
The stress is real. It is really real. First AD is not for the faint of heart.
No.
I mean, the industry is not for the faint of heart, but first AD in particular. I mean, I know a lot of second ADs that never want to be first ADs. Like, no, thank you very much.
Well, some people get over promoted. I don't want to talk any specifics, but generally in film, you can easily get in over your head very quickly.
Oh, God, especially now. Now
right?
it's
so busy.
Uncanny. A lot of people.
It's like you've done it once, right?
Yeah, I've been a PA for half a day. How long till I'm a first AD? Like, it's awful. It really is. We're too busy. I hate to say it.
No, it's true.
I don't mean that in any way to put people out of their jobs or anything like that.
Well, but on the flip side of that is like go learn a little bit.
But
and there's some opportunities to get in the union.
The caliber of some of the people that are moving up, and it's not their fault. I would have done the same if I had a chance to move up quickly. But I think it is hindering their ability to be better at their new position.
Well, and on that point too, I've heard people say that it's like their first day on set. They've never been on a set before, and they're on like a big TV show. And they're almost useless to everybody there because they have no clue what being on a set is like. And it's like, in the heat of the moment, people have said, you need to go and volunteer before you come and do this.
Sure.
You need to go work on the weekends. You should not be on this TV series right now.
Yeah, if you don't have a very basic understanding you know, it also shows that you took no preparation or you had no regard to listen.
Yeah, I would agree, right? You just roll in and you can do
Yeah.
that right now, but should you?
Should you? And the same thing. And now I think PAs are. I hate to say it. I don't want to say. When I say PAs, I'm going to sound like the
Grandpa.
Don chair. You people. It's not. You're not. It's not. You can't say. But I do find though that there is, because it's easier to get that job, that there's a lot more people that don't have the same jump because, well, if this show doesn't call me back,
Somebody else will.
and if I go and take 6 months off and go to Mexico and then I come back, that job will be here. Back then, that didn't exist.
Yeah.
So again, those very rare opportunities to make an impression, you want to make sure you hit that hard.
And film is
Hard.
feast or famine, right? We all
Oh,
know it's Save
yes.
BC Film. Shit can go sideways overnight with
Very
with money, with currency, with American and Canadian dollar, and all that kind of stuff.
Very quickly.
So so let's. I feel like we could talk for 10 years. You and I.
For sure.
Dangerous. But I want to get into Supernatural and I want to get into Riverdale. And the reason is because you moved literally through the ranks from
Yep.
season 2 of Supernatural,
Correct.
through to 12.
Yes.
Good Lord.
I know. It's a lifetime.
10 years
a
on a
lifetime.
show. What was Supernatural like when you first came on? I kind of wonder about being starstruck too. You know,
Yep.
Did you have any of that? You know, what did it feel like being on these sets? Because these are big caliber sets now, right?
Sure. I wouldn't say that I was starstruck because for no other reason than growing up with the sort of more artsy, for the lack of a better word,
Right.
film school.
Some
type.
some exposure to that.
My idols or stars will be a little more in sort of a fringe cinema. And I wasn't working with those people.
Right.
But I was in awe and struck with the caliber of that machine, the apparatus. Like, oh my God, this is a real movie. So look at all this cool shit they
Yeah.
do. So I was in awe of that, but not particularly in awe
Of the people
of
per
the
se.
people
Yeah.
per se.
You know what? I get that mostly from people in film, and I don't know if it just you never had it or it wears away because they're just humans, and you see all the sides of that, and you realize they're just people.
I mean, once
Right.
I worked with, I did Godzilla. I did second unit on Godzilla, and then I worked with Juliette Binoche. I was starstruck. Like that's
Yes.
somebody from those types of
Right.
movies that I was like, fuck, man, Juliette Binoche. Like, are you kidding me? And I worked with Al Pacino too, which was phenomenal.
What would you work on?
88 Minutes was a terrible
I remember 88
movie.
Minutes.
Holy shit, was that bad? It was terrible. Anyway,
But you always learn something.
always learn something. Always. But Supernatural, I started there as a trainee assistant director. It was
Little Tad.
It was sort of. It turned out to be sort of the kind of towards the end of my TAD
Yeah.
journey. But I had traineed for 6 or 7 shows consecutively, different first ADs, which was very good because then I got the experience working for different types of people. And Supernatural season 2, it was a popular show, but it wasn't what it is yet.
Yeah, I was going to ask, what was the vibe on it?
The vibe was like, listen, we got this good show that has really good cast, and these 2 boys are really cool people, which they are. They're amazing.
Yeah.
And they also really talented. They have good chemistry. So we're on a good show here. But if anybody tells you that they thought it
No
was going
way.
to go 15 years, they're lying to you. But there was a sense that we're onto something that's cool. That this is a cool show. We're hitting good elements of the little throwbacks to like classic rock and the muscle car. Like it was cool. You know,
Yeah.
there was a cool vibe beyond just being a genre show. It was a genre show that also had cool stuff, cool underlayers going
Yeah.
on. And they had 2 actors. They weren't just, masculine and hunky and hot. They actually really good actors
Yeah.
too. So they had this range of being good looking and athletic and all those things, but yet they could turn on the emotions like that. And you truly believe that they are brothers when you watch the show. And people just want to watch them all the time. They still do. So that was Supernatural for me. It was just like, okay, I'm in this crazy show. It's good. I started as a trainee. It was a very tough show. A lot of nights, a lot of long hours, a lot of stuff in the rain.
Yeah, because people don't think about that. I know there's friends working on Batwoman right now, and oh my God.
Oh my God, he's right.
The dreaded Fraturday, right? Like your that call sheet says 5:30 p.m. in the top right.
Oh my God.
And for people that don't know what that means you're coming home like what, 7:30 a.m., maybe more if it's not going well, if the first AD's not doing their job.
Brutal.
And you're coming home and it's morning. And you could have, it's Saturday. You're not going to work, but like screw Saturday. Saturday's gone. It's over.
Gone. It's a write-off.
Yeah.
And that was Supernatural for me, especially in the early years. And from trainee, I went to third assistant director, which is mainly you're in charge of the trailers, signing the cast in, signing them out, getting people through hair and makeup and wardrobe. But you're also doing a
you're more in touch with the actors at that
very
point, right?
much. At that point,
wrangling them. And
I saw Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki. I spent more time with them than I spent with my wife.
Well, it's true.
Like, undoubtedly.
They are your family.
100%.
You know?
And that was the first person that they see in the morning, the last person they see when they get in the car. But you also do this document called the Daily Production Report. DPR, baby. So, which means you have to stay there till the very end. First in, last out. Live for the third AD. First in,
what about
last
the Jenny Op? Is it a race to who can stay there the longest?
The Jenny Op, I think, beats him by just like maybe 12 minutes on either end. But it's you and the Jenny Op. Like, you and the Jenny Op are tight.
Yeah.
You're tight.
It's usually an old grumpy guy. His wife doesn't want him to be home anyway.
Yeah, and he's happy not to be home.
Shitloads of money.
Oh God, they're rich, those Jenny Ops, but they work for it. But they're cash rich.
Yes.
Contrary to the third AD on the flat 15-hour, not rich.
No.
But I was third AD for Supernatural for, I don't know, maybe 6-7 seasons, a long time.
So you earned your chops on there. You learned a lot, right?
A lot. And I swear to you, especially in the early seasons where you could go on shoot forever. We did some maybe 16, 17-hour camera days. It doesn't happen anymore.
No, it doesn't.
But it did back then. And literally every Friday will be a Friday. I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
I could say with confidence that for maybe 4 or 5 seasons, I've never driven home after work where I started on a Friday and it wasn't full sun out Saturday morning.
It's insane. And you're exhausted and you're driving a vehicle, right? Like,
oh my God, it's just crazy.
And your wife, I mean, I joked with Tony in his episode, like you could be a serial killer. No one knows where you are.
No, they just trust you that you're at work. You could have a double life.
Yeah, no one has a clue. And you just roll in at 7 a.m. You're like, I was working.
It's
set,
awful.
you know?
It's awful.
And why does it change? So why is that because early on the actors don't want to push back? They don't have enough of that power to say, listen, I want a life. I have kids now. Because obviously they got married, they had children, and things started shifting to accommodate that, right?
For sure. I think it is a combination of things. Number one, I think Warner Brothers, who does Supernatural, and they also is the studio that produces Riverdale. As a policy, they have been curbing the hours.
Right.
So that's one thing.
That's a nice shift in the industry.
Yes, they've been putting a cap on your camera hours. So that's one thing. And then yes, the actors, they start pushing back.
Because they have more autonomy as the show gets more successful.
They get bigger,
you're afraid to do that,
they have a saying, they want to have a life too.
Yeah.
Like you said, some of them have kids and whatnot. And the way in which they do that is that in the early seasons, those two boys are literally in every scene.
Yeah.
And the way for them to do this little move and pushback is find different characters to have develop different storylines.
Right.
So we're not in every storyline or every scene, which translates to days off. And then as the assistant director who's scheduling the show, if you're not dealing with your actors' turnaround, meaning the day they were wrapped on set and the time that the time they're wrapped on set and the time they're being called into hair and makeup, you have to give them 12 hours of rest. If you don't have to deal with that means you can turn the whole crew around in less time so you can so that your call times don't erode as rapidly.
Right, because that's what happens. If you start late on a Tuesday, Wednesday's worse, Thursday's worse.
You know where
Don't
you're
even talk about Friday.
No, you feel
like when Tony starts at 6:30 in the morning on a Monday, I'm like, we're going to make it this week. Yeah. It's going to be okay.
No, when you hit that 11 o'clock on a Tuesday, you're like, you know what that's...
There's nowhere to go but down.
No, baby. They ain't coming back from that. But I think because of those things, a combination of these factors, I think Supernatural, of course they do nights, but it has become a much more... manageable schedule. But for a long time, especially on that third AD role, I had some pre-calls or 4-hour pre-call for some 3-hour prosthetics. Caterers are not even in. There's a putt generator. One Teamster does a little Tim Hortons run. You go in, you put an actor into makeup, you try to sleep literally on your desk in the AD room, like on the
So glamorous.
on the counter. Yeah, sleep on the counter without heat because the Jenny's not on yet. Snooze for 2 hours.
Nobody thinks about this part of it. They just think of the glory of like being with the actors on set.
I know.
You know, you're and in the AD world, you're very close to those actors.
You
right?
are
That's like
very close
for fans. That's sort of the coveted, connection, right?
You can nurture some serious relationships with the cast. 100%.
So how are you feeling at Supernatural? You're in season 12. Like what made you want to move on or move forward? Because by then you'd moved up the ranks.
I moved up the ranks. So Supernatural went all the way from trainee to first AD, right?
Good for you, by the way. Like that's impressive.
And and I owe a lot to the show and to the people that always, when those opportunities came up, they decided to upgrade me and not look for somebody from outside of the family. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah.
But it was good. I felt that. You have a tendency, I think, like everybody, once you've been doing a role for a few years, a long time, and you feel that you mastered that role, you start getting bored.
Yeah.
And maybe too comfortable, and maybe some laziness start kicking in.
Of course.
It's human nature.
It is.
And you have to self-police and you just go like, okay, come on, don't do that.
And some people are fine with that, and that's okay too, right?
Yeah,
You stay in the role, it's comfortable.
That's fine.
You ride
100%.
it out.
For me,
hungrier.
I know for me, like as soon as I felt that I could master that job. And by master, I'm not saying that I was the best at it. I'm just saying.
But it was a well-oiled machine for you.
In my own perception, I learned the job. And I'm not saying that I was the best of any of those positions, but I felt that I knew what they were, and maybe I didn't have anything else to learn other than just become better and better and better and better and do more shows.
And how old were you then? Like what, at season 12, let's say?
Season 12, I was early 30s, 31.
And were you a father
30,
yet?
32. Yes, I was.
Okay, so new father.
New father. And
I don't know how you feel, but I always worried, because I'm a parent too, that it would hinder me and make me want to do less. It actually somehow is the opposite.
Me to do a lot more.
Why is that? I agree with you.
Fear. It's fear.
Fear of what though? Time, running out of time, or
no, being broke and in an expensive city. I thought when my son was born, I was just becoming a second AD full time on Supernatural. I had done some second AD. I was becoming a full-fledged second AD, and I used to work the full season of Supernatural, 9-10 months, and take 2 to 3 months off.
Which is like hiatus. May, June-ish, sort of.
The lovely, glorious, coveted hiatus.
And then the Maniacs, just as an aside, go and pick up other freaking work in that time.
That's what I started doing it. So for a long time, I was so exhausted. I saved money. It was the wife and I would just take time off.
Yeah.
When my son was born, I was like, this is it. It's odd because you think that I wanted to take time off to spend time with them, which, trust me, I did.
Yeah.
But there was a part that's like, wait a second. If I go broke now, it's not like, oh, the wife and I will cancel the cable and we'll just sell a car. Like, now I have this baby. I can't. And then I realized that you've been doing Supernatural for a long time. You've been climbing up, but that's sort of your show.
And you also didn't know at that point when it was going to end, in fairness. 12 is...
You never know.
Getting up there, right?
And you get renewed season to season. Like, you have an understanding that he's probably going to go, but it's not like you can plan 3-4 years ahead.
No, never. And to that point in hiatus, you don't make money. So you can go on unemployment insurance. But somebody said to me the other day, oh, don't you just take paid vacation? I was like, no.
No, God,
if Tony goes on vacation, there's no money coming in.
No money coming in.
You get paid out on your check for it. Because it's like every week production's
but it's up to you to manage that, right?
Yes.
And it's a trap because it can make a lot of money rapidly.
Well, and your check looks good, but don't forget your vacation's on there.
Yeah,
right?
you have to account for the hiatus that you're not going to work.
That's right.
And I didn't, but all of a sudden I'm like, I got to work a hiatus because I need other things in my resume other than Supernatural. So I worked all the time. And I was happy that every time I felt stagnant in a position that I felt like I was ready to like just blow my brains out, or I felt like I was maybe deteriorating in my skills because now I'm not motivated. And you don't want to be that person that gets too comfortable and becomes lazy and not you're a shadow of your former self.
And it's easy to do in film.
It's very easy.
We all see those people, they look 100 and they're like 49. They're divorced.
I know. It's
maybe substance abuse stuff. Like,
for sure.
You can see all kinds of collateral damage. And it's in every industry, but I would say film is a dangerous one.
It is a dangerous one. So I felt fortunate that every time I was reaching a point of like, this is driving me crazy, I'll get an opportunity to move up, an opportunity to move up, an opportunity to move up. And then
it's like the Nissan Micra on the side of the road.
The Nissan Micra, baby.
You want to buy this?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, I
Do you
do.
take cash? So when I was in season 12 of Supernatural, everything was going well. And I got a call from a production manager called David McGee, who I had done a Netflix show with him based on a YouTube celebrity. The show's called Haters Back Off. And I work with David, and he liked me. So he called me, and he said, "Are you ready to leave Supernatural yet?" I think a year had gone by.
Yeah.
And he said, "Okay, you went back to Supernatural like you said you were going to. I let you do another season. Now I'm coming for you, baby. Are you ready to leave?" And I'm like, "Well, maybe." And he said, "Well, I'm gearing up for Riverdale season 2. And I'm interested in bringing you along." And Riverdale was starting to become popular, but it wasn't what it is now.
No.
It felt like a bit of a gamble at the time, leaving the comfort of Supernatural to go to a different show. But I talked to some people that I trusted, in the Supernatural world, and they say, "You're crazy not to go there. You have to go."
And it was a jump.
It was a
Lateral. Okay.
lateral. They said, "You have to go. You have to cut this umbilical cord. You're not gonna go anywhere else here." The directing opportunity it wasn't gonna be there for me on Supernatural, and I knew it, and I was fine with it. I understood the reasons why. I wasn't resentful for it. It was natural. And of course, if I did another 5 seasons of Supernatural, you only become better as a first AD. You experience different episodes. But to a point, I've reached.
Yeah, you
the end.
plateaued.
I plateau at Supernatural, and change is good.
I think 9 years. I don't know if you need to 10. You don't need to make excuses for moving on.
Change is good. And so I decided to take that chance. And I told the bosses, I told all the producers, I made a point of telling them all in person and phoning down south, talking to the showrunner and our American producers that came to town to direct. I waited until they're in town. I told them in person. And they all thanked me a lot for the way that I did it.
Classy.
They understood. They wanted me to stay, but they understood. They said, "Listen, we knew this day was going to come, and it's good for you. You should do that. Go ahead and do that."
Yeah.
And I did. And God, did that ever pay off? I mean, I couldn't count that it was going to be like that. But But it started a whole different story that it's been just as incredible as my Supernatural one.
So what was your first day on Riverdale like? What were you doing? You were first AD or you were
first AD?
Okay.
So I was first AD. It was the beginning of season 2.
Large ensemble cast. Little different than Supernatural.
Large ensemble cast.
Little tykes.
And it was part of the reason I took the show.
Yeah.
I phoned a friend of mine, Rachel Fortier. She's a second AD here in town. She's first now, and she comes to Riverdale she does a lot of our second units now, and she's fantastic, great professional.
I love ladies in film too. I always love to hear about
and there's so many great, tough, especially ADs. I love that.
Me too.
And Rachel's a great person and a great professional, and she had worked on the pilot of Riverdale. So I phoned her and said, "Hey, Rachel, I'm getting called to Riverdale. I know you didn't do this series, but anything you can tell me?" She's like, "The cast is fantastic. I think you're going to have a great time." And she said, "I know you well, and I think you're going to be a great fit."
Yeah.
And I said, "Why do you think that?" It's like, listen, he's a bunch of young cast, and I think they need somebody that's not super old they can relate to. So I think you're at that age where you're young enough. You're gonna get them. Your energy, you guys gonna mash as far as energy and all those and style and all those things. And yet, I think they'll really respect the fact that you're coming from this very successful show from the same network,
street cred.
And I'm like, fuck, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it clicked. I very early on, and not just the kids. I really very early on the whole cast because you have that blend of all your
the
stars from the 90s and the parents and the kids. And I just created a strong bond with them, one that is based on me running a tight set, one that was efficient, but also one that it was governed by respect and positivity, which is tough to do in this business. It's tough to do as a first, and know when to press, but know when not to.
Well, you're often a peacekeeper, right? You're that point
For
person
sure.
between a lot of different tug-of-war departments
and
on
personalities
you.
and personalities. You imagine a lot of personalities, and sometimes you do need to sort of turn the heat up a little bit. But knowing when to do and when not to do is key, right?
Yeah.
And we had, I hate to say it, but we had every now and again some directors that would come by that I think, looking back, weren't necessarily a good fit for the show.
Yeah. Everyone feels that.
Right?
That stresses the set out.
And it's nothing. I would never question their talent
Yeah.
and the merit of being directors in that
But
series.
it's fit.
But it's fit.
Yeah.
Shows are different and whatnot. And
There's a cadence to every show, and not everybody fits that cadence,
of
right?
course. So some directors struggled with the cadence and the format and the intricacies of Riverdale.
Yeah.
And when they were struggling, myself and the DP and the cast and the crew, the sort of creative people of the crew. And the first of these, it's not even considered a creative position, but I embrace also knowing my place and when to say something, but to drop creative nuggets or creative problem solving per se, something that would suit our production needs to get this fucking thing done on time and on budget, but yet without just pointing at my watch and having no regard for the artistic merit of a scene or of a day, because directors don't respond to that.
No.
You know what I mean? They then just
no creatives respond to that.
No, and so you need. So I think if you really want to become next level first AD, you have to be that person that runs that tight set and has excellent planning and excellent diplomacy and all those things. But you need to understand creativity so that you can talk to a director at a level they respect you as a filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like a lot of creative pursuits. You can have people that are just pushing paper, but I'm married to creative. I definitely know how to motivate them.
So I was there. So when these directors were faltering, I was there protecting the kids and protecting the show. And I remember there's one scene where they're really struggling with this director. It was a party scene, and they start like almost like these taking little pot shots at each other verbally across the set. And I rally all the kids. Like we finished a shot and I put them all in a little room, like 15 of them. And I'm like, listen up, guys. I want to murder this director as much as you do. But this is our show. This is Riverdale. This person's going to move on. We stay here. And we can't do that. We have to be better than this. We got to keep it together. We got to push through it, and you got to make this right. So I need you to stay with me, and I'll stay with you.
Yeah.
And they talked about this day still.
Yeah.
So I developed this relationship with them that I have your back.
Mutual
you
trust.
have mine. This is our show.
Yeah. And
this
not everybody
is our
can
show.
do that way. That's a skill set that will take you far, right?
And that was the beginning of my journey there, right?
Yeah.
Building those relationships and building some sort of like leadership persona amongst other people, of course, on set. That we are Riverdale. We are the people that make the show successful and a happy place to go to work, which is important.
And then they let you direct, Gabe.
Yes, they did.
And I watched last night. I was like, I'm going to watch one because I haven't watched a lot of Riverdale. Admittedly, I'm an old hag, and it's not the Archie I grew up with.
No,
that's
it's not.
for sure. Holy crap! But so I turn on season 4, episode 1, and I'm like snuggling on the couch. And then I start crying, Gabe, like 15 minutes in, because like Luke Perry was my heartthrob growing up, right?
I know.
And I was like, I didn't know it was this one, Gabe. Anyway, it was really like heartfelt. I thought that was a really difficult way to tell that story if you haven't seen it. I mean, we all know what happened with Luke Perry losing him in March, but yeah, that's a tough one. And I feel
Very
like,
tough.
And you have to keep, the show must go on, that classic thing, but right?
It must go on. And there was, first off, I was very honored. That was my 3rd episode of Riverdale.
To direct.
And the first one that I was directing, knowing that I was going to be their producer director, meaning I'm producing there full time, that I knew that I was directing 4 episodes this season, current season 4. And then I knew that I was going to do big episodes, meaning the premiere, the mid-season finale, and the finale. So I was already very happy about my journey, like a dream come true journey on Riverdale, but yet feeling this pressure, not just the pressure to perform because of the big shows, but an inner pressure that wanted to honor this incredible gamble that our showrunner he pushed for me to get this role. I had to go through the gauntlet at Warner Brothers. They were questioning the merit of this young director who was a first AD less than a year ago getting this big role. And I wanted to reward Roberto for his faith in me. So it's pressure from both ends. I don't want it to be the guy that you push for, and I did 2 good episodes, but all of a sudden, oh yeah, he was the 2-episode kid. And now I really wanted to I'm here to stay. I'm here because I have a voice. I'm here because I work hard, but I have something to bring to the table. And when I found out there was the Luke Perry tribute episode, that even made it.
Of course. Pressure, right? That's a lot to live up to.
Pressure, but.
Because now you're not only directing a story, you're directing a story in a story. There's 2 stories, right?
And Roberto Aguirre Sacasa, who's our executive producer and the creator of Riverdale, he put something on Instagram saying, this is perhaps the most important episode of Riverdale history, which I was like, thank you, Roberto. That's no pressure.
Yeah.
Before I even went to camera. So I was nervous because, again, just because I wanted to prove to everybody that you're right in supporting me. Your choice was the right choice. Thank you.
And did directing, just to ask you a question while it's with me, is directing a natural progression from your AD stuff? I know you said it doesn't necessarily go into that. Did you have a concern about that, or did you feel pretty comfortable that you could direct?
No, I didn't have a concern. I felt pretty comfortable. I was worried, as you should, and nervous as you should, because it was your first time.
Right.
And you can never know everything, especially directing. So it's always going to be challenging, no matter if it's your first, 10th, and whatnot. So of course I was nervous. Of course I didn't know whether I was going to make a fantastic episode or one that wasn't fantastic. But I knew that I could do the job. I wasn't necessarily worried about the job. I was worried about just being nervous because you're nervous.
Yeah, of course.
But I felt that I had observed and I had the hunger and the drive that I was going to be able to at least survive it. But transitioning from assistant director to director is not necessarily a natural thing.
Right.
It takes somebody taking that leap of faith and saying, yes, you do have that set experience, which is valuable, but I can see you as a creative person and not just as the logistics person.
Well, because often actors get to direct. And I always wonder about that. Like, is that just a treat because they're number one? Or is that, it
could be a treat. And the same happened with ADs. It is not uncommon that ADs get an opportunity to direct in the shows that they AD. And it's part of a reward for being a good first AD. And if they have directing aspirations, they'll ask for an episode.
Right.
And often they'll be given because they're talented and they work hard and you want to keep them around. So that's not uncommon, but I think it's not as common as you think that from those episodes, those first ADs would then become just full-time directors.
Right.
It should happen more often. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And I think there's a lot of very talented first ADs out there that are directing, but not necessarily were able to do a full-time transition,
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that episode was lovely. Kudos to you. That was a heavy one to handle. And
very, and when I was filming, the cast, they told me all the time that they were very happy that I was the one doing it.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't imagine anybody being there with them when something that personal
absolutely.
For all of us was happening. And that was very flattering and touching for me. And I took that, I thought, well, that's really nice.
What more can you ask for? Right?
That's their trust, and they're trusting you in their most vulnerable, emotional episode that they've done. And all I try to do is to service the story well, pay homage to a brilliant human being, an artist that was Luke, and be cautious and sensitive enough to so I could provide an environment that the cast could come in and go through this difficult time. It was nurturing a very gentle, loving environment. That's what was in my mind every day when I was doing that one episode.
Well, you can't ask for anything more from a director. Like that's all there is, And
at that point, I was just like, listen, I don't know. I mean, hopefully I'll have a great career, but if something happens right now, they can't take that away from me. My name is going to be on that episode forever. And that's it's very cool.
We didn't even get to the indie stuff, I could talk to you for 10 years. And
We'll
you
do part
joked you're
two.
Brazilian, so we could do a 10-hour podcast marathon if we needed to.
We'll do part 2.
We will do part 2. You'll be too busy. We'll have to wait till next Thanksgiving. You'll never have time for me after this. Thank you so much for coming and
for
sharing
having
your
me.
knowledge. I'm so grateful that you're here. Like I said, truly, you're a busy guy. You're a big deal. And I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a
Thank you,
pleasure.
Gabe. If you want to learn more about my podcast, you can go to vantropolispodcast.com, or you can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. You can also leave me a review on iTunes, subscribe, or share it with someone you love or don't love. Just share it.